Every day, one person disappears from this village, leaving the village empty of people. They warn me never to enter Graymore Valley after sunset, but warnings always sound like invitations to someone who grew up chasing mysteries. The first time I heard about the village where people vanished one by one without screams, without footprints, without a single trace, I felt that familiar pull inside my chest. It wasn't curiosity. It was something deeper, something colder, like a hand gripping my spine and whispering, "Go." I reached the valley just as a pale fog slithered across the ground, curling around my feet like living smoke. The air smelled old, as if nothing new had entered this place for decades. Houses stood crooked along the empty dirt road, their windows dark and hollow, staring at me like blind eyes. No dogs barked, no birds sang, no sign of life yet. The village felt inhabited, as if someone or something watched me from behind every shutter. According to the last census, Graymore had 57 residents. Now, only 10 remained. 10 who refused to leave, despite the disappearances happening almost every full moon. They said the village took people. No kidnappers, no bodies, no blood. Just gone. The closest survivor I could find was an elderly man named Oren. When he opened the door, his trembling lantern cast long, shaking shadows across his face. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped, gripping my arm with surprising strength. "It knows newcomers. It smells the unfamiliar." "What knows?" I asked. He didn't answer. His eyes drifted past me, toward the mist thickening in the street. His face drained of color. "It's too early," he whispered. "Too early for the fog to move." A sound followed, soft, like someone dragging fingers along wood. Not from the houses, from the fog itself. Then Oren shut the door in my face, and as I stood alone on the silent road, the fog shifted again, slow, deliberate, almost curious-like. He had noticed me. The fog curled upward as if rising to meet me, forming thin tendrils that twisted like searching hands. I stepped back instinctively, my heartbeat thudding against my ribs. Fog doesn't move like that. It doesn't follow, doesn't listen, doesn't wait. Yet this one felt aware, almost expectant. I forced myself forward, deeper into the abandoned main road, each step sounding far too loud in the dead silence. The wooden signs creaked overhead, though there was no wind. A half-broken swing hung from a tree, swaying gently as if someone had just jumped off seconds before. But I was alone. At least, I thought I was. I reached the old fountain at the center of the village. Its stone edges cracked, water long dried. The stories said this fountain was the first place someone had vanished an entire family. Sitting together for dinner, gone between one breath and the next. Only their chairs remained, facing the fountain like guests waiting for a show to begin. A sudden shuffle made me spin. A woman stood on the opposite side of the square, thin, pale, wearing a coat 2 sizes too big. Her hair looked as though it hadn't been brushed in weeks, and her wide eyes reflected the low moonlight. "You're not from here," she said, voice trembling. "New faces disappear first." "I'm here to understand what's happening," I replied, trying to sound steady. "Do you know what caused the No sings." She glanced around nervously, as if the houses had ears. "We don't say its name. Saying it is an invitation." "What is it?" She shook her head violently. "It hears everything." Before I could ask more, she backed away quickly, almost stumbling as she disappeared into an alley. The moment she left, the fog thickened again, moving with purpose, flowing toward the same alley she had entered, like a predator following. A scent dot, then the street lantern above me flickered. Once, twice, and for a split second, I saw a shape inside the fog, tall, narrow, watching. When the light steadied, it was gone. But the air suddenly felt colder, heavier. I wasn't hunting a mystery. The mystery was hunting me. I forced myself to keep walking, though every instinct begged me to run back the way I came. But Graymore Valley had a strange gravity once you stepped inside. It felt impossible to leave until the village was done with you. The fog drifted along the ground in slow ribbons, circling my ankles as if testing my warmth. Every few seconds, I caught the echo of footsteps behind me. But whenever I turned, the street lay empty, silent, waiting. The remaining residents had barricaded themselves inside their homes. I saw faint candlelight behind thick curtains, but every door stayed locked, every window bolted. They were alive, but they weren't living. They were hiding. From what? From whom? The question pressed heavier on my chest with each step. I reached the old schoolhouse on the hill, its wooden frame groaning under years of neglect. A rusted bell swayed above the entrance, though there wasn't the slightest breeze, and a chalkboard inside still held faint markings, names, dates, lessons, all frozen in time. A layer of dust covered everything except one desk near the window. Someone had touched it recently. A whisper broke the silence, not from a person, from the fog outside, brushing against the cracked windows like fingertips sliding across glass. Crouched beside the desk, noticing small carvings on the wood. Don't trust the night. Don't look at it. Don't answer when IT calls. Before I could decipher more, a faint creak came from behind. The school's main door opened just an inch, then stopped. A trembling eye appeared through the gapperon. You should have left when I warned you, he hissed, breath shaking. It's waking early tonight. It senses a stranger. What is it? I whispered. He didn't enter. He didn't even blink. Some say it's the valley itself. Some say it's an old spirit. But the truth, no one knows. It began as a whisper in the fog. Then it learned to mimic footsteps. Then voices. Then faces. My stomach tightened. Faces. Oren nodded slowly. It doesn't take bodies. It takes the space left behind. It erases people like they were never born. A heavy silence settled. Then the fog outside swelled, rising higher than the window's almost shoulder height. Now Oren's eyes widened in terror. It's here. The schoolhouse lights flickered violently, and then from the fog came the sound of a child's laugh.
The child's laugh drifted through the schoolhouse like a cold breath on the back of my neck, light, playful, completely wrong. Every instinct screamed that I was hearing something that remembered how laughter should sound, but couldn't quite mimic it perfectly. Oren pressed himself against the half-open door, eyes filled with a horror that told me this sound was not new to him. It's learning again, he whispered. Run. Don't let it see your fear. But I couldn't move. My legs felt rooted to the dusty floor as the fog pressed against the windows from outside, thickening into a milky wall. The laugh echoed again, closer this time, and the temperature dropped so sharply that frost began forming on the edges of the chalkboard. Oren suddenly yanked the door wider, motioning frantically. Move. Now. I bolted toward him, but halfway through the doorway, I froze. The fog at the bottom of the hill was no longer drifting, it was rising. As if pulled upward by invisible strings. It formed swirling shapes, tall and thin, bending unnaturally, distorting like cloth under water. Oren grabbed my sleeve and dragged me inside another building, his own house, slamming the door shut behind us. He locked 3 bolts, shoved a heavy wooden bar into place, and backed away from the door like it might explode open at any second. For several long breaths, we stood in total silence. Then, tap, tap, tap. 3 gentle knocks. Not on the door. On the window. Oren's face drained of all color. Don't look, he croaked. Don't look at the windows. But curiosity clawed at me, and against my better judgment I turned my head just enough to see the corner of the glass. A small handprint appeared on the window. Perfect. Detailed. Pressed from the outside. Then another. And another. Tiny hands, like a dozen children, were standing in the fog, touching the glass. But there were no children left in Graymore. One hand slowly dragged downward, leaving a faint streak through the condensation, forming a. Every window turned black at once, as though the house had been swallowed whole by something vast and waiting. Oren stumbled back, clutching a trembling candle that barely pushed back the darkness. The flame stretched upward, thin, unnatural, like it was being pulled toward the windows instead of rising normally. Then the house groaned. Not from wind, there was no wind. This was deeper, like old wood under a heavy, shifting weight. Oren, I whispered, is it right outside? He didn't answer. He was staring at the ceiling. The boards above us bulged downward, as if something was crawling across the roof on all fours. Slow. Deliberate. Listening. The candle sputtered. The flame leaned sideways. And the faint sound of breathing, wet, slow, filled the room. Don't speak, Oren mouthed silently. But the breathing inside the walls grew heavier, like it was sniffing us out. A voice, thin and childlike, echoed from the darkness outside the window. I see you. Oren clamped a hand over my mouth. Don't reply. It mimics the ones it takes. Another voice joined in, this time older, deeper. Let us in. Then a woman's voice. Help us. His eyes filled with tears. Because the valley is hollow. It needs to stay whole. Anything unfamiliar, anything that doesn't belong, it removes. Like dust wiped from a table. The roof above us cracked sharply. A long, skeletal shadow slid across the beams. Then. Silence. Total, suffocating silence. The kind that feels like the whole world is holding its breath. Oren grabbed my hand. We run.